Welcome to Face to Face. I'm Bill Plant, and our guest today is NASA Administrator and former astronaut Charles Bolden. Welcome.
Good to be here, Bill. Thank you.
You know, yesterday we all watched here in Washington as the shuttle mounted on the 747 did several fluff turns around the city. There were people out there gawking and thinking, this is the last time we're ever going to see that ship in the air. What did you feel?
Well, I wasn't here, believe it or not. I was actually in Colorado Springs, but I was following it with great interest. And I was very emotional, even in Colorado Springs. I was speaking out there at the National Space Symposium and having an opportunity to explain to people how this was the beginning of the new era for NASA. It's the beginning of our next era of exploration. Discovery played a key role in helping us construct the International Space Station, which is now our toehold on the universe for humans. And it was quite a historic vehicle, having flown 39 missions, many of them historic first, to include my second flight, which was when we put the Hubble Space Telescope in orbit.
Yeah, you were in the driver's seat there. So
I've had good times in Discovery.
Yesterday must have been kind of emotional.
Every day with shuttle is emotional for me, but then every day is an emotional day for me because I'm sort of a passionate person. I really believe about the future. That's what I'm about. That's what NASA's about. We love to tell people that we're about making the future, taking science fiction and turning it into science fact.
Well, you're talking about the future, and everybody, I think, wonders when they think about NASA, if there's nothing to get us into space, what is next?
Oh, we are in space all the time. We've been on board the International Space Station now for almost 12 years solid, without interruption. No, not a second has passed over the last almost 12 years that we've not had at least one American astronaut and at least one Russian cosmonaut working together on the International Space Station, and usually with crew members from other nations. So we've been in space. We use the Soyuz to get us there right now, but we've got a company called SpaceX that's going to launch probably the 30th of this month on a cargo demonstration, and then Orbital Sciences will follow in the summer. And we have competition underway right now, so we can determine which commercial company or private company is going to carry our own astronauts, so we can bring that responsibility back here to American soil.
But isn't it a little strange after the competition of the Cold War to find us depending on the Russians to get to the space station?
Not strange at all. You know, I can tell you that because when I was told, I was here at NASA headquarters when I was told back in 1992 that I had been selected to fly the first joint Russian-American mission, and I promptly told my boss at the time, forget it. I'm a Marine. I've trained all my life to kill them and them to kill me, and they told me to calm down. There are two guys in town, have dinner with them, and then talk about it after that. And I learned that was one of the most valued experiences in my life, was to have an opportunity to work with them for a 2-year period of time, help their families adjust our culture and everything, and that's what we're all about. NASA's really involved in trying to expand America's cooperation with other nations around the world in the fields of science, engineering, technology.
But there are a lot of voices out there today that are concerned about America not having a manned space program.
We do have a manned space program, and I'm so glad that you're taking the time to have this conversation, because Americans need to be very proud. One of the things I was hoping people would see yesterday when Discovery flew overhead, and we're hoping that they'll see it in the other cities around the country where we're going to put orbiters, is that's a piece of our heritage. It left an incredible legacy. That legacy right now is the International Space Station. And the International Space Station is, like I said, it's the toehold to the rest of the universe for us. Humans have always wanted to go into deep space. We have never, ever been into deep space. We've never been any farther than the moon. We're going to go farther than the moon. We're going to go beyond that. So we're going to fulfill the dreams of people who wrote science fiction books before the Wright brothers built the first airplane.
Well, in that vein, what do you think about Newt Gingrich's proposal for colonizing the moon?
I'm not going there. I stay away from politics and political statements and everything. We're about exploration, and we are going beyond the moon. You know, it is not unlikely that humans will be back on the surface of the moon. It is unlikely that NASA will spend a lot of effort trying to. We don't colonize anywhere, but we will explore. Mars is one of our destinations. It's one it's a challenge that the President has laid out for us. It's also a place where most people who happen to be like you and me and the human species think we ought to go, and we're going there. We want to find out whether there is other life in this universe, and that seems like a logical place to start.
Let me remind you that in 1981, Walter Cronkite had the Apollo 11 astronauts on Face the Nation, and they told him that the U.S. would be on Mars I mean, I'm sorry, this it was in 1969.
Yeah.
69.
Yeah.
And they told them that the U.S. would be on Mars by 1981.
You know, there are plans that people make, and then I always tell, I love to tell kids this. We always make plans, and then life happens. When I never dreamed of being an astronaut, to be quite honest, growing up in Columbia, South Carolina, and I was very fortunate to meet the late great Dr. Ron McNair, one of the first astronauts selected in the early program. He encouraged me to apply, and I did. When I came to the space program after never having dreamed about being an astronaut, I thought I was going to the moon. You know, I figured I would fly a couple of times on shuttle, then I was off to the moon. And I might be around long enough to go to Mars. So when Neil Armstrong and everybody else in 1969 said we'd be on Mars in 1981, that was the trajectory for the nation then. The nation was not in these dire economic times. I'm telling you now, you know, President Obama and I say we are going to have humans in the Martian environment by 2030. We're saying that in a time of very strained economics because we have a plan to get us there, and I think we're going to do it.
But can a kid from Columbia, South Carolina today aspire to be an astronaut?
I hope a kid from Columbia, South Carolina today has an application among the 6,300 that we just received for the class of 2013. And if not, I'm going to be very disappointed.
You've got a huge budget, $17 billion, but there are going to be a
You're
lot
the
of...
one that refers to it as a huge budget. That's a lot of money. You're right.
But it sounds like a lot of money, I think, to most folks.
It's a lot of money.
And there are going to be a lot of other agencies in the federal government in a time of retrenchment reaching out for pieces of that. How are you going to be able to do all these things?
Well, it's because we cooperate with other agencies in the government. We work collaboratively with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. We work very collaboratively with the Department of Defense and other agencies across the government because we produce technology, whether it's sensors that are on satellites in space helping us with climate or environmental issues or defense issues. That's what we do. We have the people who develop the technologies, check them out, and then turn them over to people who are going to use them for operational uses.
You know, I must say, sitting here listening to you, I would think that there was nothing amiss in the U.S. space program, that everything was just, you know, dandy.
Hunky-dory.
But I mean, a lot of people think that the U.S. has lost a lot of prestige by not having.
I always say, I wish people could spend more time with me or with any of my 17,000 employees around the world or the 40,000 contractors we have who believe in the future, who are very positive about where we're going, very positive about the trajectory that President Obama has allowed us to be on with his repeated request for funding, for increased fundings for technology development, for science, for human spaceflight. And you know, we're going to do okay as long as the nation stays focused. And they're not where I would like for us to be quite honest. I am very hopeful that we'll reignite the debate on where humans, particularly the United States, should be in terms of human exploration of our universe.
Because there does seem to be a sort of loss of interest in the space program.
It depends on where you go. If I go into schools today, and I've seen, Bill, I tell you, I've seen it like this when I was in the shuttle program in the 80s and 90s, where I couldn't walk in a classroom and ask who wanted to be an astronaut. Every hand went up. There was a period of time when I could walk in a classroom, maybe one or two hands went up. If I go in a classroom today and I ask who wants to go to space, most of the hands in the classroom go up. You all did something, I think it was yesterday on the morning news, where somebody went into a school, I think it was over in Maryland, high school. I was shocked. I was pleasantly surprised because every single kid in that class said they wanted to go to space. You wouldn't see that 2 years ago. So that, to me, was exciting. We need to listen to kids.
This nation has always been about the next frontier since the beginning. Do we still have one?
Yes. The next frontier. There are several next frontiers. For NASA, the next frontier includes the oceans, believe it or not, because we participate. We actually had a NASA JPL engineer who was on the James Cameron team in the Mariana Trench. And we have an experimental laboratory called NEMO that's off the coast of the Florida Keys, where we send astronauts and scientists down below the ocean to study the depths of our planet. Our planet's huge, and we don't understand a lot about the depths of the ocean. We don't understand a lot, as much as we should, about our atmosphere in which we live. And we don't understand anything about the rest of the universe. I've listened to Neil deGrasse Tyson yesterday when I was out in Colorado, and he was talking about our atmosphere, and he compared it to the skin of an onion. it's all relative. And I want kids to get excited about the vast majority of the universe, where humans should have been by now, but weren't because life happened. You know, we had Challenger occur. That's why I never got to the moon. I am firmly convinced that had we not lost Challenger in 1986, Charlie Bolden, sitting here as the NASA administrator, probably would have never been the NASA administrator, because I would have gone to the moon and then maybe on to Mars. But life happened, and we were stopped dead in our tracks. And it's taken the nation some time to get its courage back. Its courage to, I'm trying to get people to understand, you have to be willing to fail. You don't want to, but you have to understand in the things that we do, we're in risky business. That's why we're here. I mean, that's why every one of my 17,000 people comes to work. They love being in a very risky business because they understand the rewards for what we do are tremendous. They're, I don't want to use the term astronomical, but there are astronomical returns on our investment because what we do is very risky. Now, it means that you're going to have some dark days, you know, but
all right,
we hope not to see them soon.
With 1969 in mind, what's your prediction for when Americans get to Mars?
2030s. I follow orders. My president told me that he challenged us. He challenged us in NASA to have humans in the Martian environment by the mid-2030s, and we're going to do that. We have a lot of work to do, and that's why I really want young people all the way from elementary school on up through graduate school to help us. There are a lot of questions we have to answer technically, psychologically. I mean, you know, 8 months on a trip to Mars, that's a long time for a human being. We've lived and worked in space for 6 months. We haven't made the 8-month trek one way yet, so we got a lot of work to do, but we'll get there. So put it on the calendar, mid-2030s.
NASA Director Charles Bolden, thank you very much.
That's it. Thank you, Bill.
This is Face to Face. Be sure to tune in Sunday for Face the Nation. I'm Bill Plant. Bye-bye.